Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So I am kind of like in this different feeling. I'm not exactly in an art block or like an art funk per se. I guess like if you know the feeling when you have too many projects to kind of like start on, you might get a bit overwhelmed. So you end up like not starting any of those projects or like any of those pieces of work that you want to actually start. So I thought today I will kind of like push myself to do kind of a 1 hour continuous session, similar to like the 1 hour drawing or sketching sessions that I've done in the past. So feel free to join along with me if you would like to kind of use my 1 hour drawing video as like a timer or just like as a drawing companion type of thing. Feel free to do that. Or if you're just using it to just get started on your drawing, then yeah, join along with me for the start and feel free to kind of like drop out if you need to, or take a break, pause the video or whatever. But for today, this one is kind of more of like a personal piece, so I'm not too pressured to need to like finalize anything, but I would like to kind of like get it out of the way because it's kind of like a brain worm for me. So I do have a timer right here for 1 hour, which will start in a bit. Let's go ahead and go into my VTuber folder. You can kind of see like I've been doing a few sketch pages here and there in this folder because there's like a lot of like outfits or designs that I really like from some of the VTubers that I watch. So today we are going to be drawing Sable from Niji En, and they're part of the 11th wave, I think. So they're part of By the Beat, and so far I've been really enjoying pretty much like all the member streams. I try to catch them if I can, otherwise like just watching them pretty casually. I didn't really think about the canvas size per se, so maybe we'll start with like the A5 size. So what I'm planning to do first is that I'm going to sketch mostly with the 6B pencil. I know oftentimes if I want to finish a piece, I will use the sketch round from Jing Sketches' brush pack, but because we are going to be potentially not liking today's idea, we'll scrap it, or I might like the piece enough as it is for its own sketch, so I just like using the 6B pencil just in case if I do prefer more of that sketchier look. Otherwise, if I do end up liking it, I will kind of resketch it with the sketch round and then end up probably painting it and rendering it out fully to make like a full illustration. So kind of starting off, we're using an A5 canvas. I'm going to select the 6B pencil, and I like to sketch kind of like in a very dark gray. So I think we'll do that for today. If not, we could sketch kind of with a dark indigo kind of ish color. On camera, it looks more blue rather than purple, kind of what we're working with. But I'll set a timer for 1 hour. So feel free to grab all your supplies or anything you want to use to work with, or just use this as background noise. Feel free to do whatever. Okay, 1 hour starts now. So for Sable, I kind of want to do kind of like a crouching pose. No, the thing is, like, I don't know if I want him to be, I guess, like looking down towards us, maybe facing the other way, but looking more down. Apologies if you can hear like the whirring noises of my desktop. Often does that when I'm recording. But today's session will be like more or less an unedited session so that we can keep our timer accurate. Yeah, it's either that I want him to be kind of like this. I don't know if I want him to be like full on kind of like crouching. We could go with something like this, or other option is this way. Or I can turn him a bit, maybe. Crouch this way. I was thinking like maybe umbrella. I want to give him like the donut just because of his donut hypothetical. I think it was funny. I'll make like the crouching pose maybe make a little bit more sense because his squatting looks a little funky here. This one feels like deliberately posed. I think it would be cute and then have hydrangeas in the back or something like that. So we'll kind of keep these, and I guess we'll go with that type of pose. I don't remember if I saved anything that could potentially work. Because on Pinterest, I had like reference photos of this this one model, I guess, that had like the umbrella, which is kind of like the vibe I want. I want it to be airier, probably. So we'll see what we can do. The one thing I don't like about Pinterest, well, like among other things that it already is very flawed and very AI filled, is that sometimes you click back to like the homepage or like reopen your app and it like auto refreshes. So I see like a glimpse of a photo and then it disappears forever. So sometimes that's unfortunate. I don't know how big we want it. Let's map out the body and then maybe crop it. But if you are also drawing, feel free to let me know what you're drawing after, I guess, your session, so I don't also interrupt what you're working on. How do I want to turn his body, though? Kind of keep it here. So you can kind of see. So I want him to be more turned towards the side, I guess. Might have to look up some crouching poses so I don't draw the pelvis or like pelvic area weird with the legs. Because I don't want him to be like full on sitting on the floor per se. his knees would be up a bit more. Still want his donut. Hand was. I always have to like pose with my hand first. Otherwise, I sometimes will forget which side the pointer finger and the thumb should be. And I don't want to draw the hand backwards, so hopefully we can make it a little bit more deliberate looking. Head is a little bit too large. Sable's kind of not like super tall, I guess, like compared to Calyx and Azeel. But hopefully I can get these proportions like somewhat okay. Then the umbrella. I might have to extend his legs further. I think crouched or like bent poses are a little bit funky when it comes to like the proportioning. I often make things a little bit too short, I feel like. And then other times I make the torso too long. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. There's like a girl posing with an umbrella similarly posed. I guess she's more like scrunched. I can at least follow the shape of the umbrella for this. Umbrellas are also like a bit odd. I don't remember the last time I've actually drawn an umbrella, even though I love the clear umbrella with like the rain, the flowers, and that kind of like lighter, airier aesthetic. I think is super pretty. There has to be an easier way to imagine this. Okay, well, map things out a bit better. Maybe when we're finalizing a few things up. So hand-wise. Would this look a little funky? Because if his arms here. I'll leave it for now. Because I don't even know if this is like correctly positioned. Forgot that these segments would bend. Okay, so let's actually get some detailings in, other than his other leg is kind of gone. Eh. Squatting a little low. Let's just try to see if we can make this look like Sable. So let me swap to our Sable reference, which I'm using like his official VTuber kind of model. So spent like kind of the first 15-ish minutes doing our rough sketch at this point. His eyes are very cute in terms of the color and like the little shape of his pupil. It's kind of like the little sparkle, similar to Kaya from Genshin Impact, if you know what his eye looks like. It's kind of like this in the center. I don't think Sable actually has like prominent lashes. I also might switch to slightly smaller size. Because drawing on the A5 size, I think it might be a little bit small. I do want to add like flowers of some sort. Where would I place this? I feel like also, apologies, I always say I feel like. I think it's when I'm processing a little bit, I tend to start my sentences like that. But when I was drawing Yoimiya, doing line art in Procreate like a few years back, I think I did a similar-ish pose. Two little moles. So when I'm doing kind of the rough sketches, either I'll sketch with a brush that I don't mind is like a little bit more punchy, and I will end up kind of lowering the opacity of my sketching brush. Or I will use like something like the 6B pencil where I can kind of like build up value slowly, if that makes sense. So I start my sketch off very light, or light-ish, and then when I really want to commit to something, we can like really darken it up. So we'll probably raise this. You can also make it look like here you took like a chunk out of it. I know like in the past I've also tried my best to not erase too much so that I don't fall into the trap of not really, I was gonna say committing, but I don't think that's the case. I guess being too fixated on like erasing a mistake over and over again and then not making really any progress. Is this a little psychotic? If it's like glazed or has like icing on it. Would you hold a donut like this? Yeah, I feel like his torso-ish area, also his neck, maybe it's a little long. Raise this choker a little bit more. Then we can have this kind of collar here. And jacket wise, I am gonna do more of like the off the shoulders. Whoops. Let's not lose our timer here. Also, more recently, it just takes like one thing to kind of like start me back into drawing into certain fandoms again, if that makes sense. So being able to watch streams a little bit more regularly than the last few weeks or even months, I think. And with the kind of like the debut of By the Beat, kind of sparked a bit more enthusiasm in terms of wanting to draw VTuber fan art again, just in general. Even though like I do sketch like my other Oshis every so often, like I tend to doodle Ike and Reimu a lot. Because design wise, like I find them very fun. And with Reimu like having a plethora of like different outfits, I usually kind of like flip-flop between the designs I want to draw her in. So this part of his jacket is on the looser side, so I need to make sure his sleeve kind of also depicts that. I really like his jacket though. It's really cute. It's like a split open back on this side. Maybe even a little bit higher. Pants are pretty simple. It's kind of like, what do you call these? Like slacks, maybe? Shoes wise. So I'll kind of layer and bend those pants a little bit. Shoes, we have like snazzy dress shoes, loafer-ish types. I need to know like what's the difference between like the typical kind of dress shoe and like a loafer. Or is like loafer more casual, or is loafer part of like dress shoes? In terms of like categorization of it. Hopefully the huffing puffing of my laptop isn't too bad. How am I feeling I am breaking his ankles somehow? Maybe we're okay. I want this to be more of like the back portion of his shoe, so he's kind of sitting like his feet splayed out. So maybe you can't see this foot actually. And then kind of the weight distribution. I feel like his shoe's a little short. Okay, back to his face so we can make him look a little bit more recognizable. Earring. He has two. I might find my other reference of him so I can actually see just him straight on. Where is that photo? I swear I had one. Perfect. Okay, so I can see his other piercings correctly. So technically out of like the new boys, I mostly watched Sable and Calyx. I think Calyx being the most. And the next is Sable. But I really like when they do like a group collab. They just have good vibes as like a unit. So just very fun and kind of like easy to watch, if that makes sense. He's so round. Sometimes people who have like very round hair designs throws me off. I like drawing like more wispier-ish hair, I guess. Not saying like people who have like round hairstyles like this can't have like wispy bits and stuff, but I usually like flicking out hair strands like this quite a bit. Hence like how Masaki's hair is kind of styled a bit. So tie I might make a little bit visible. Arm is also a little long. Maybe? So bring this up a bit. So let's see if he has accessories. Anyway, why do I talk funny? So when I'm like switching to the next word too quickly, I like merge them ever so slightly. So he does have a little bit of accessories here, which I think looks super cute. I like the stars and moon theme kind of has going on here. Just with like the little bits and bobs for his little accessories, the jewelry. I think it's just really cute. I'm surprised he doesn't have any rings though. So this is also a glove. So my favorite part is actually doing our cleaner lines, and then we can darken and shade everything. So let's go ahead and do that now. We're about halfway through for a little 1 hour session, so I think that puts me at a pretty okay time right now. Unless... am I missing anything too crucial? Besides like his body proportioning is a way off. I mean, I technically could do this. Not by too much. I think it's also because his neck just looks long. Okay, I think we can just start with the darkening up phase, which I'm going to switch to a little bit of a smaller brush. Just so we can get a bit of detailing here and there. Not too much. And I might pop open our reference so we can kind of see how he's coming along, because I get very tunnel visioned whenever I do detailing, especially for like sketches like this, because I tend to put a little bit more effort into making sure things turn out a little bit more clean, darkening things up at like a very zoomed in level. So it's good to have like a secondary view if you can. I don't know if we'll add color. It might depend on how much time we have left. For the one that I did of my Osima Seki, I think I ended up doing color after my 1 hour session was already up technically. And then when I worked on the sketching session for Fine On, I ended up having no time. So we'll see where Sable falls into. Because it would be nice to maybe do a quick like almost watercolor-esque wash with the old beach brush. Fiddle with the colors a bit. You can kind of see I'm like kind of gradually... Oh, I've also changed my pencil setting because I just realized I'm pressing a little harder than usual. It's like that. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. No wonder I was sketching so lightly actually compared to how I usually am, because I'm technically a little bit heavy-handed if I'm not like fully conscious about it. Just naturally, I guess. Until like university kind of hit, I learned that if you hold your pencil further away, you'll get much more looser, less like restrictive lines. But I was a person who like always held my pencil like super close to the base because I liked writing really tiny and very neat, which I think gave me a little bit of like hand problems eventually. Not like super badly. I do get hand cramps when I write. This is one ugly donut. I think it would have been smarter for me to make the glaze the darker color, the donut the lighter one. Maybe we'll lean towards chocolate-ish. I don't really remember in his 2.0. Does he even like chocolate? I know he's a chocolate mint hater. Same with Reimu, I believe. So two of my Oshis don't like it. So you guys can actually let me know. Chocolate mint ice cream, yay or nay? Or like chocolate mint in general. I'm like a mint enjoyer. I love chocolate mint like ever since I was a kid. And no, I don't feel like I'm eating toothpaste. Should make the glaze look like it has a highlight. But I don't have like a reference of my donut here, so I don't know how the glaze is actually supposed to look on it. That's okay. We'll leave it as is. It looks moldy donut. Let's finish off his hair first, and then we'll kind of like move downwards on the canvas. And who knows if we'll even get to the umbrella, because I am not compelled to even draw it, to be honest. The other drawing I was gonna do for today, if I didn't end up drawing Sable, was drawing my OC Arakan. I don't know if it's because of Zeal's design. I was feeling a little bit more motivated to draw one of my OCs because he's also bartender at night, so I thought it'd be fun to actually explore a little bit more of that aesthetic. And I would like to eventually draw both like Rio and Zeal at some point too. But there's like a lot of like the Niji members, even like Hololive, Holostars, that I've always wanted to draw on, but I haven't tackled it. I drew a lot more, I think, in like 2023, 2022 as well. Mostly 2023, because I got more into like Niji En at the tail end of 2022, I think. Just before Luxium debuted. Kind of look like his lip or mouth is over it. His hair feels a little short, or like we're losing his scalp-ish area. So darkening up kind of like these corners or places that have more of a tangent. We have his choker. Shirt is black. I might switch back to the larger brush like this, just because it will be easier to fill in some darker areas. I didn't really think about a light source, other than I plopped the highlights for his eyes in. Guess I'll make it like this way, coming from the upper right. So that way I can kind of focus a lot more of my darker areas on that side, and then leave a little bit of lighter areas on the other side. And then if we do have time to add in a little bit of a wash, we can kind of fill in some of those darker areas to have a little bit of some sort of like mid-tone color. It's also dark. So I'll make this almost completely dark with a little bit of reflective light. Do you guys have like a favorite brush to sketch in? I usually use the 6B if I have no intention of like using the sketch for anything else later. Other than like when I'm working on like chibis, I like using a larger 6B pencil kind of brush so that I can really like chunk in shapes when I'm drawing chibis, since they are a little bit more on like the shapier side. Other than that, if I have no intentions of like finishing the piece, then I'll just kind of sketch with it and then leave things similar to like my pencil sketches, because it is like a 6B pencil. It has like nice texture, we can build up value. If you set your, what is it called? Pressure sensitivity and all that stuff kind of like correctly to your own hand pressure and preferences, then you can really play around with like the soft versus like harder areas, giving it nice contrast. I'm not the best at it, but it's still fun to treat it more like traditional art. I know a lot of people who are able to really treat some of these brushes that kind of like imitate traditional art to make it actually look as if it was drawn with like pencil, or not pencil, whatever the traditional medium was supposed to like replicate. I always see people do beautiful like watercolor painting on Procreate, and I'm like, how? My brain can't comprehend. Even though I downloaded like a few new brushes recently, or like a few months ago, I think. And I think I had okay results to a certain degree. Alright, he has a black shirt, so I should be darkening this up. Yeah, we have like roughly 16-ish minutes left. So I don't know if I will actually have time to put in any watercolor washes. Just realized I left his hair quite light. Though technically we can give him a little bit of texture and shading so he doesn't look too... Ah, I see. This is where the shape of his hair is getting a little lost. So sometimes I follow the wrong sketch lines. And because of that, I end up with like odd shapes for certain things. And I don't realize it. Whoops. Hope you guys don't mind like longer sessions like this of real time sketching. I really want to change his mouth shape. Let's leave it for like that for now. Let's chunk in some more of these darker areas. I love like contrast, so that I can really darken up these areas as much as I can. I think that's another reason like I like drawing Reimu's like default outfit. She has like a very good significant amount of like black, but she has enough like also lighter colors in her hair. Her outfit has like mid-tones here and there as well. So Saba's hair's not super dark. It's more like a chestnut-ish brown. So that might be a little overkill. Chunk this back. Okay, I need to figure out his jacket situation. Pants are also white, so not too much to really darken, other than a little bit of hatching here and there to show some depth. I feel bad. I'm gonna be busy for a good chunk of this week. I don't know if I'm able to draw anything for Mingyu's birthday, like day of. So I might be late with his birthday little illustration. Because I think I did chibis for this year. For 17's like birthday illustrations. I know I shouldn't feel like pressured to, but it feels bad when you start the year doing the first like 4 and then you suddenly stop. And I don't want to like suddenly continue and it looks like I skipped someone's birthday. So this looks too intense as a fold. So we'll just cross hatch. I can speak sometimes. Oftentimes I find myself like, because I merge letters and words together, probably because I talk too quickly before my brain can like actually process what I'm trying to say. It sounds like I have a lisp sometimes. Especially with like the S and like H sounds. We have 10 minutes. Didn't really establish where pelvic areas. Maybe this would be above. Oops. Also, Switch 2 was announced. Or not announced. I guess there was like another Nintendo Direct about it. I'm excited for it. Not for the prices, but I do like Nintendo for the most part. It's like the franchise company brand that I grew up with. Never really grew up with any of the other console. It's like PS4, like the PS whatever series, PlayStation, and then Xbox was like not, like it was non-existent for me. I don't really remember if anyone in my village growing up really played. Maybe they had PlayStation. A lot of them were also like Nintendo kids. But a lot of them like had older siblings, so maybe some of them had like other gaming consoles. There's always the Game Boy, the Nintendo DS, the GameCube. Mostly like Game Boy Advance SP probably. Black shoes for Sable. A little bit of white detailing. So I feel like his legs are still too short. Like if he were to stand, he'd be a very small man. So can we extend it. Is this reasonable? Okay, my brain's like on a full different tangent right now. I think this was when I was invited to a little dinner party with my friends, where I thought it was just gonna be my two best friends along with their partners. But it ended up being my two best friends, their partners, and then the one friend's partner who was hosting the dinner party invited his friends, which added like 6 more people. And it was very overwhelming for me, but manageable. Overwhelming nonetheless, but they have like they're all sporty people, rowers, I guess, or something of that type. And they were talking about something called an ape factor. I had no clue what it was. I mean, the guy who was like getting it explained to them also didn't really know either. But it was cool to learn about. I think it's like when your wingspan's a lot longer than your legs. So your arms would be further down your body if you were like to drop it to your sides, I guess. Okay, I need to look up a reference for crouching. How are the legs? Yeah, have it backwards. It's this way. And I didn't give this enough width, I don't think. So you have like the two sides of this, I guess, that's like, whoa, squishy, like squishing together. Just causing me a bit of a headache to figure out the shape. But let's finish his shoes. Maybe we can slap in some color. If not, we can overextend our 1 hour, I guess. Similar to the Masaki one that I did too. I also want to see like later this year if I can check whether or not I'll be not busy, so that I can actually play some of the games that I bought on Steam last year. Because I really want to play Eastward. And one of my friends really liked it, so I wanted to give it a go. Alongside like Moonstone Island, there's like so many games I have kind of like downloaded that I really haven't gotten to fully play. Fields of Mystery I took a break from. Never really got back into it quite yet, just because of time. And because I play Stardew Valley with my friends. So my brain kind of goes there if I want to play farming simulator. So that's kind of where we're at. Don't know if this makes sense. I really don't what am I saying? I don't pay attention too much of like the folds near the armhole of like jackets and clothing. Okay, let's quickly just throw a few lines for the umbrella. Okay, so new layer. I'm actually gonna duplicate Sable's layer. We're gonna save it to the bottom just in case. And we're gonna alpha lock his. And we are gonna use the old beach brush. So color-wise, I might choose yellow. I feel like yellow is like the safest color. because I like warmer lighting typically. Old beach brush. Try our best to blotch in our shapes here. I also don't know if this works with the old beach brush. I saw somebody who was like connecting their watercolor, so you can kind of see there's an overlap like this. He just used the smudge tool. Maybe with the same brush? Okay. Maybe it doesn't work with the old beach brush. But they were able to kind of like maintain the texture. It's not too bad, I guess. But maybe I'll look into see if I can find that brush, because it kind of had like a nice watercolor texture that they were able to manipulate a little bit more without having to worry too much about the watercolor overlap, I guess. So we're definitely going to go over a 1 hour mark here, which is okay. I'm kind of using the session to just get started on at least an idea that I wanted to do. And I think I will at least tweak this one so that I can make it into like an actual full illustration. I might crop in so that we can get more focus on the face, maybe? I don't know. So shadows might look a little bit dark right now. We are going to play around with this a little bit more. I've done this in the past, so I'll show you kind of like the similar technique that I like to do. Which is just like me thinking I know what an artist is doing with their brush. I actually don't know for sure, but the old beach brush is inspired by an artist that I really like on Instagram. Oh. Okay, so that's our 1 hour, and this is kind of how far we've gotten. But let's continue to fill in our shadows, and then I'll show you guys a fun way to do lighting if you kind of like this sketchy look alongside with the touch of like other colors, I guess. I'm also going to see if I can change this to be warmer, because I'm using more of like a blue purple, almost like periwinkle color, but it's not really picking up on camera. This is a bit warmer. Maybe a little too warm. We'll see. So go like this. I'm gonna do a bigger brush. So I do like leaving the edges kind of untouched if I need indication of a break in a shape, because I want to have more light touching it, if that makes sense. Probably doesn't. But I don't want to fill it in like completely flat. Looks more like a lily pad. This way, whenever I add in our kind of like secondary color, I typically pick only two, and it is usually a cool color and a warm color, or at least like in comparison to each other, it's a warmer and a cooler color. And that way I can... What happened here? This is supposed to be like where his shirt ends. I accidentally really put it in towards like the bottom portion of like his pelvic area, or like is like where his butt is, which is not correct, but it's okay. But leaving the edges is kind of fun. because the old beach brush does have like that watercolor edge to it. At least I think it's fun. I really like traditional medium. If I can use it, I will. Otherwise, digital's also fun. It's very freeing. Just something about traditional that I really like about, I don't know if it's technique per se, but it requires a lot more of my focus too, so maybe it's that. Maybe I feel a little bit more present with my art because I have to pay a lot more attention to it. Could be that, who knows. Okay, so now that we have our base for sable, I might add a little bit to our ground. Kind of like this. I might clean up the edge a tad bit. Now, if you have like highlights or anything you want to like preserve, do that now. I typically don't chip away too much like this. But if you do want like sharper, cleaner lines, then this will definitely help. I think we're good. So next step I am going to do, now that we have sable kind of in our bluish purple, I'm gonna alpha lock it. And the fun thing about if you alpha lock and switch brushes to like more of a flat brush, it will retain the texture. So I'm gonna change sable to more of a light purpley blue periwinkle color. It's not too faded. Maybe a little bit more blue. It's not gonna be too big of a difference for you guys, but definitely shows up a little bit more for me. And then we'll pick more of a warmer color and basically lightly touch the edges of where our light would hit. So you want a lot of light, make that color really present. Otherwise, you can just lightly touch up some areas. And I really like letting these just like graze the top of these edges. Doesn't have to be everywhere, but it's kind of nice to have a almost subtle gradient. Added a lot more here to these edges too. Ideally, you would save both colors so you can kind of do it back and forth. Add a little bit to his eyes. Last but not least, let's go ahead and go back to our sketch color or sketching layer, and then we can also do a tad bit of a lighter color also towards the areas that would be touched by brighter light or by our light source, so that it becomes just a smidge softer. Also, like, not super necessary. I just kind of like it. This one's very, like, subtle in terms of the lighting, but I think it looks kind of cute. So I think that's it for today's little session though. So let's go through the little time lapse, and hopefully you guys also drew along with me. If you ended up doing that, feel free to let me know what you drew. But here's kind of like our little planning. Usually I would do these types of like thumbnailing and stuff in my sketchbook so that they don't really show up in my time lapse. But this is our weird pose that we're gonna have to really elongate. I actually don't know if I've made the legs. Yeah, the legs are definitely too short, or torso too long, which makes legs too short. Maybe. Okay. That's kind of our little finished sketching session. So if you're interested in like similar sessions where I do like a 1 hour sketching drawing video, I do have one of my OC Maseki where we kind of did this. So kind of similar 6B pencil, and I did more of a cell shaded color palette type of coloring for that one, as well as I also did one of, where is my Star Rail folder? I'm trying to remember who was the last person I drew. So I did one of Thynon as well, which turned out a little funky, but it was still fun to try to figure out his design a little bit more, because I would like to draw him in the future. But I think that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me or joining me in our little 1 hour session of drawing Sable. Hopefully the colors will be a little bit more accurate at the very end. Like I said, this is supposed to be a little bit more of a purpley color and it's not really showing up. But yeah, I think this is where I'm going to leave you guys. And I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!